And we begin our coverage in the US, where President Trump has told Americans that a rough two-week period lies ahead. The United States was, he said, in the midst of a great national trial, unlike any it had faced before. He spoke after official figures were released showing the US had overtaken China in the number of COVID-19 deaths. David Willis reports.
From the White House came the direst warning yet. The worst is yet to come.
I want every American to be prepared for the hard days that lie ahead. We're going to go through a very tough 2 weeks. And then hopefully, as the experts are predicting, as I think a lot of us are predicting after having studied it so hard, you're going to start seeing some real light at the end of the tunnel. But this is going to be a very painful, very, very painful 2 weeks.
Apocalyptic projections from White House advisors point to between 100,000 and 240,000 Americans dying from the coronavirus. More if social distancing guidelines aren't followed.
As sobering a number as that is, we should be prepared for it. Is it going to be that much? I hope not. And I think the more we push on the mitigation, the less likelihood it would be that number. But as being realistic, we need to prepare ourselves that that is a possibility, that that's what we will see.
With more than 3,800 deaths here, the number of Americans killed by the coronavirus has now exceeded that of China. Of even greater symbolic significance here, the death toll has also exceeded that of September the 11th. And in New York, the epicenter of the virus, charity workers have now set up an emergency field hospital in Central Park. The city's mayor predicts they'll soon need triple the number of hospital beds than are currently available here. And not even those at sea are safe from the virus. The captain of a US aircraft carrier has called for urgent help to halt an outbreak among his 4,000-strong crew. "We're not at war. Sailors do not need to die," he wrote in a letter to the Pentagon. Having gone from predicting this country would reopen by Easter, President Trump is facing the grim reality that the coronavirus is here to stay. With the US possibly on course to become the next Italy in this crisis, it looks like posing the greatest challenge yet to his presidency. David Willis, BBC News.
Well, the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres says the current coronavirus outbreak is the biggest challenge for the world since World War II. Speaking at the launch of a UN report on the potential impact of the pandemic, Mr. Guterres said the UN will be helping developing countries deal with the impact.
The United Nations is establishing a new multi-partner trust fund for COVID-19 response and recovery to support low and middle-income countries to respond to the emergency and recover from the socio-economic shock. UN resident coordinators around the world will be the drivers of the UN response on the ground, ensuring that the wide and diverse expertise and assets of the United Nations system are used in the most effective and efficient way to support countries.
Well, let's now turn to Europe and start in Italy. Official figures there suggest the rate of new infections is slowing, but the number of deaths recorded each day remains high. Another 837 people died in the past day, taking the total to almost 12,500. Among them are doctors. More than 60 have died, with medical unions saying they lacked the necessary equipment to fight the outbreak. Our Rome correspondent Mark Lowen has more details.
Perhaps never again in our lifetime will we see Rome like this. The virus is sucking the life out of this country. 3 weeks on, Italy's lockdown is set to be extended today until the outbreak stops killing. They lowered the flags to half-mast across the country to pay tribute. From Florence to Rome, from Italy's south to Bergamo in the north, the town worst ravaged by coronavirus.
It is a symbol of national mourning to mark a month that has torn through Italy's heart, the country with the highest number of deaths from the virus and the highest fatality rate. Italians need to feel there's an end to the daily loss of hundreds of lives, to the constant mourning.
Medical unions say the huge loss of doctors here, at least 66, shows a failure to protect those trying to cure it.
They worked without the right equipment like proper masks, and they weren't given them. Not enough had been tested. We were completely unprepared. China showed us what we needed to do and we didn't follow it. It's like sending soldiers to war empty-handed, unable to defend themselves. We could have avoided these deaths. Doctors paid for their commitment with their lives.
We developed a valve.
So young, inventive Italians have stepped in to help, using 3D printing to develop a valve that turns a sports shop snorkeling mask into a ventilator. The blueprint has been downloaded for free 1 million times by hospitals in need across the world.
2 days ago, it was my birthday, and I received a message from Brazil in which a doctor says me that 100 people were breathing thanks to my idea, and I was very, very happy. I cannot receive a better present for my birthday.
The healthcare system too is improvising. Milan Exhibition Centre converted into a new hospital with 200 badly needed intensive care beds. Italy is being forced to adapt to this virus, running after it, but still too far behind. Mark Lowen, BBC News, Rome.